So what do a financial advisor, a taco entrepreneur, and an NBA legend have in common? Why are all three of these guys up here? And the answer is that they all live their lives with purpose, and they all work towards a greater good than just what's in front of them, and have a longer term view of the world. And so we're here to talk to them a little bit about how they do that, how they drive decisions from using their purpose as a basis, and learn a little bit about how you might be able to apply that to your financial advisory business. Thrivent Advisor Network, just a minute about that, is established in 2019. We are a subsidiary of Thrivent, which is a Fortune 300 company. Thrivent is the original, the OG purpose-driven company. It's been around for 120 years and really focus on sort of the triple bottom line of creating great financial futures for our clients, empowering generosity, and giving back to the communities that we work and live in. You as financial advisors are uniquely positioned to help people live lives of purpose because many of you are independent business owners, you've got a unique skill set, and you're really uniquely positioned to have the expertise to drive that. So let me introduce the panel real quick. On my far right is Jason Drews.
Hello.
Good morning, Jason.
Good morning.
Jason is the founder and wealth advisor for M25, which is a business on the TAN platform, Oregon-based, that him and his partner and team managed about $325 million in assets, and really work with clients to help them find the balance and work with them to live lives of purpose and help the organizations that his clients are supporting. Next to Jason is Wing Lam.
Thanks.
Good morning, Wing.
Thanks for having me.
Wing is the founder of Wahoo Tacos. They have 45 locations around the country. Has been giving back, from what I can tell, since the very first days right out of high school with his first taco shack on the beach, and has been giving back to his high school and various communities ever since then. Right now, currently works with a charity that he founded called the California Love Drops, which we've been supporting as well, and we'll tell you how you can help us support that in a minute. So thanks for being here, Wayne.
Thanks.
And to my right is Robert Horry. Thank you for being here today, Robert. Robert is a
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
NBA legend. Many people know him as Big Shot Bob. When I told people, I have to be honest with you, when people found out you were coming and I talked to them about it, there are some people that have a bone to pick with you for having wrecked their favorite NBA team's season. So I'll try to keep those people away from you as we go through this. But cool. Robert's also very purpose-driven, works with a lot of, I know the Laker Youth Foundation, established a foundation in memory of his daughter, Ashlyn, who unfortunately had a rare disease, and we lost her at 17, and is working with the NBA Foundation and other places to give back to the community as well. So I wanted to start with talking about what you guys would define as your purpose. We're talking about amplifying your impact. If you don't know what you're trying to amplify, that's a good place to start. So Jason, why don't you kick us off a little bit and talk about your purpose?
Yeah, years and years ago now, when I was trying to chart my path, I thought it was going to be law school. I thought it was going to be these various different opportunities, and finally narrowed it down to some key things, some key core values that I wanted to make sure happened in my life. I wanted deep connections in my community, wanted to stay success. I wanted to have deeper roots with greater success. I didn't want to have to dislocate. Prior to this work, I was doing consulting work, did a lot of wonderful things to support nonprofit organizations with planning and fundraising campaigns, but I was all over the country doing it, and it wasn't going to be a good fit for a family. So for me, the purpose originally was create a space where I could have the life I would hope for the kids I would hope to have with my wife. That's evolved over time. As that was realized, you begin to see more of your community, engage with the people around you, and you start to see how you can make an impact either through your own actions, supporting others that are engaged in the community. It's given me opportunities to serve on boards and support a wide range of wonderful causes. So the purpose has been really just leading with an open heart and focusing on long-term big values The smaller decisions that often seem really significant along the way are a lot easier to make when they're pointed in a more true direction. So that for me has been a real driver.
Yeah, I think Jason makes a great point. One of the things that we've seen is moving away from KPIs, key performance indicators, in your business and moving towards long-term vision. And to really move to, and when you do that, you create long-term growth and long-term value. And one of the things that Wing, you've talked to me about a lot is that sort of virtuous circle, right? About how your purpose and doing that can drive good in ways that you hadn't even thought about. But talk a little bit about your purpose.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I literally, when we started the business, is one, if you wanted to get into the action sports space, which is Southern California, right? Only two ways to get in, either aspiring professional, up and coming, or best friends with one of the guys. If you didn't have those skill sets, you couldn't get in the action sports industry, which I didn't have either one, right? So we got into the food side of it because, hey, how do we support this action sports space? Well, they need food because the events in the 80s, 90s, whatever, they sucked. There was no F&B, we call it, right? So I'm used to going to football games where there'd be, tailgates and all that. None of that existed in the action sports space. So I thought it'd be a cool way to do it. And I'd say, hey, it'd be kind of cool to meet a few guys. Well, by doing, giving back, just doing the right thing, I call it, you can't help it to end up meeting all the right people. So all the people I've idolized as a kid, I ended up becoming friends with. So, skate, surf, snow, all that. I've done all the X Games. I've done all that. And remember, in the 80s, there was no such thing. There was all just a little tent on the beach or a tent on the snow. And as the years progress, this guy here shows up one day at Quicksilver, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's dragging like a body bag across the aisles and just taking stuff, right? I'm like, how much stuff can you possibly take, And the joke is most athletes have a lot of relatives. So everybody expects to come to his house and goes, hey, I need a shirt, I need a hat. That's why these guys end up having to take more than, And so over the years, we stayed in touch. And through I think Lakers Foundation, all these things. So again, you can't help but end up meeting all these amazing people that give back because not only are you doing what you want to do, but supporting the community. So we all gravitate. So what started out as just action sports turned into the NBA, NFL, the NHL. I mean, pretty much all the leagues because all of us have this purpose where, hey, why not use our companies, our brands, our position to help the community that we're in. So it's been a fun little ride.
Great. Thanks, Wing. Wing was talking about NBA players and their families. We talked last night about you and how you support many members of your family, and that really is one of your big purposes is to help your family. So maybe talk a little bit about how you view your purpose and how you think about that.
I know the one thing about growing up in Alabama, you're really family-oriented because you have to have a close-knit unit. And so you become really close with your family, and not just your mother and your father and your siblings, but people outside of your family. And then when you get on a platform like the NBA, it's huge. And everybody thinks that now that you're in the NBA, that your purpose is to take care of everybody. But that's not really your purpose, Your purpose is to try to put people in a situation to succeed. And a lot of times people, I make this analogy. You ever see the little kid on Instagram now where he's walking and the cat's holding onto his pants? And people want to be that cat where you just drag them along. I said, no, I want you to walk beside me because my purpose is now that I have this platform is to lead you to a better situation than what you have. And it's up to you to not just knock on that door, but kick in that door and be successful because like Wing said, you have this opportunity to meet a lot of different people. And when you meet these people, take advantage of that opportunity. And my purpose is not to drag you along, but to bring you along. And I feel like for me, and if any of y'all ever been to Alabama, you know that it's not like this beautiful scenery you have here. You got some parts where it needs to be upscale, uplifted. So I feel like for me, that's my way of giving back to my family is opening up those doors and having a purpose to show them the right path, to show them light, and give them the direction.
Great. Thanks, Robert. Why don't we talk a little bit about, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, Robert, that really resonates with what I've experienced, and I'm sure a lot of the advisors have as well. In our business, a lot of your success is what you've done first on your own, which having played basketball in high school, I know how much how inferior I am to a truly skilled person at it. But there was a pivot several years ago when I realized that I couldn't just do it with my own hands any longer. The things I wanted to accomplish next absolutely required other people to be a part of it. And that was a real shift in my own satisfaction as a business owner, as an advisor. It was being able to bring people in, and I really appreciate that metaphor of alongside. I think that really resonates.
Yeah, that's great. We one of the things we wanted to talk a little bit about is decision making using your purpose. So Robert, maybe you can start about talking about how do you use that purpose when you need to make a decision and when you need to run your life or do your charity or your foundation or whatever it might be.
You know, we're talking about the purpose, and for me, it could be I could sit and talk for an hour about it, because you think about when you're in the NBA, you have all these platforms, you have all these people coming at you with different, situations, different issues, and for me, you try to do the right thing because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do. Then you realize, like, this doesn't tug on my heartstring. This is not for me. Even though I love the foundation, like, for instance, let's take the Boys and Girls Club. I love doing stuff for children. I love doing I didn't grow up with a Boys and Girls Club, so that doesn't pull on my heartstring. Oh, so what about the YMCA? I didn't grow up with a YMCA. And so I love doing stuff for kids, so that's one of the reasons I love doing stuff for the NBA. The NBA has they have the Legend program where we travel all over the world, all over the country, and we do different programs from financial literacy to, basketball camps to just talking about health. And for me, that's one of the things that I love doing, is giving back to the youth in that way. Because I feel like if you do it with just this program, you minimize on your touch. And I like to broaden my touch. And my agents get mad at me because I do a non-exclusive contract with everybody. I says, no, I'm not going to do an exclusive contract with you. When I talk about my agent, I don't talk about my professional agent, but people who get me certain little gigs like, speaking engagements or appearances and stuff like that. Because I feel like your view is only so big. But if I have these different people out here working for me, my touch is broader. And for me, I feel like that's best for me. And a lot of people don't like that. But I'm saying, hey, why does it matter? You making money off of me, we're making money, we got a broader touch. What's the big deal? So that's one of the things that when you talk about purpose and talk about giving back, my purpose is to help the youth. My wife sometimes gets mad at me because we'll be in a gym and I see a kid in the gym playing basketball. And I go in there and just start talking to them and teaching them how to do certain things. And they have no clue who I am because they about 7 or 8. And then you can see who their father is or who their mother is because they'll start looking and they're like, is he helping my child? But sometimes I have to be careful because I don't want nobody to think that I'm trying to, do something I don't need to be doing. And so I just feel like for me, even though with my daughter, I know I'm going pretty long, but even though with my daughter, she has what she had was what's called 1P36 deletion syndrome. Even though I felt like that was my purpose to help that program, I started out helping that program, but it was too hard on me because, seeing all these kids and knowing that there was nothing I could do was too hard on me. And I feel like that's more of my ex-wife's job, and that was her purpose. But my purpose was just to go out and do something I won't say I'm good at, I'm not saying I'm great at, but I know what I'm doing. So, and that was my purpose in the sense of helping kids who love the game of basketball, who wants to talk about, conditioning, former players, and whatever it may be. So that's the purpose. And I tried a lot of different ones, but the one that really comes to home is that.
Thanks. Wayne, why don't you talk about your decision-making process?
For me, it's like coming into a situation when somebody said, I remember like the first golf tournament that somebody ever asked me to be a part of. I looked at it, goes, so you want to spend $500 to sponsor a tee box? I says, let me see what you guys are doing. Like, what are you trying to do? Raise money, blah, blah, blah. And I would take a look at their spreadsheet, and within 2 seconds, right, I would say, dude, how about I do the lunch, I do the beverage, and I do this, and I'll save you $10,000 to the bottom line. You still want the $500? And they looked at me and goes, well, how are you going to do that? I goes, well, I own a restaurant. So I'll come in, and in my restaurant, I sell beer, I sell wine, I sell soft drinks. So I can probably call Pepsi, Budweiser, whoever, and get a couple of cases of everything donated. So pretty soon, I became the guy, I was at one point about 30 golf tournaments a year, and my brother said, hey, you got to get back to work. You can't take every Monday off, right? But it was coming into
brothers are good for that, right?
I feel like you figured it out, Wayne.
Yeah, but it was coming into situations where I could basically not only help, but I could make it better. So pretty much, literally, I chaired Tim Salmon's tournament for 20 years, Rod Kerr for 23 years, all these big events, because I could look at the bottom line, and which is, again, ROI, right? Because why spend, X to make Y? Why not save a little bit here and a little bit there, and you'd still make more? So people looked at me and go, wow, so forget about the $500. Let's try to save 5,000 here, 10,000 there. All of a sudden, we're netting $250,000, right?
Right.
So the whole idea is, again, all of us being bean counters here, right? Look at it, goes, hey, how do you make an impact? It's not just about, saving money, but ultimately, if you can make 10, 20, 30% better return on your investment, right, to a charity. And all of a sudden, word gets around town, goes, hey, that guy that makes tacos knows how to do more than just make tacos.
Great. Jason, how about you? Talk about how that works at M25.
It's pretty broad. As a financial advisor, as you all know, we have a broad set of tools. And so I think a big piece of it is just being adept and knowledgeable at how to use the right tools in the right way to help our clients, right? There's things you can do to give now, there's things you can do to give later, there's things we call the give and receive tools. So a lot of it is just really knowing when and how to use the tools, but they're all just tools. I think for me, what's been most impactful is the connection we have with our clients, with the relationships. It's following where the relationship leads. How and where we focus our efforts, it varies. So as individuals, as a firm, we have our own tool set. Part of our revenue funds into that, and as a team, we use that to respond to needs in the community. Is modeled after my own family. We did that as well. It was really satisfying when the fires hit Maui. We've spent time as a family right in the area that was hit, and it was a quick text change like, this is where the family fund should go this year. Everyone agreed. It's normally something we talk about around Christmas. It's a giving season. It's a routine that we have in our family. My mom started it, my siblings, now our kids are all part of that conversation. This year it was easy to find the thing that connected. So a lot of it is just being well equipped and tuned into where and how the needs are in the community. That's been our approach. So almost more like a radar. We're actively tuned to find where the needs are. And Robert, I appreciate what you mentioned too. Having done fundraising consulting, strategic planning, helping clients, a lot of the connections I have are through other people. But when you find that thing that really resonates directly with you, it's a very different experience. Our family experienced a loss much like yours did, and as a response to that, created a nonprofit that's been a real powerful and informative organization in our family life. So when you get that click, when that resonance really hits, it's not effort anymore. It's something that pulls you into it, and that's a very powerful experience. So I'm not sure if that's technically or structurally specific, but that's what our process has been.
Yeah, that's great. And just a shameless plug for Thrivent. Thrivent is, as I said, is the original purpose-driven company. And last year, we directed over $250 million back into the communities that we live. And there's a variety of different ways that the company does that. And if you're interested in learning more about how that happens, we'll be happy to talk about that as well. Robert, one of the things you talked about with purpose is that it has been a journey for you. It's not, sometimes when you think about purpose, it's like, I found my purpose. Like there's a Steve Martin movie where he's the jerk or something where he finds it, right? So not saying you're the jerk, by the way. No, it's just.
I love that movie, so you're good.
Yeah, all right. But you were talking last night about the journey that you've been on with your purpose, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be one purpose that you live with your whole life that's rock solid, and that you can move around and you can work and you can do good while you're still trying to find your purpose, because you've had different experiences. So maybe if you talk a little bit about that, would be great.
It's so weird. Like I just mentioned it earlier about trying to find your purpose and trying to find what works for you. And like I said, this platform allows me to meet so many different people, and it opens up so many doors. And for me, it's always been an amazing ride, because I'm just a small town kid who never thought he'd make it to the NBA. And now I'm rubbing elbows with Denzel Washington, Jack Nicklaus at games and stuff like this. And, you know, they start to admire you. And I tell my kids all that I have 3 boys, and I tell them all the time, you never know who's watching you. And so make sure you lead the right life, and then you never know what it can lead to. And so for me, my purpose is to lead a good life and to help people that I meet along the way. And I think about my path with trying to help my brother. And sometimes you have to, you know, with our family member, even though you're trying to take them down that path and try to find their purpose, but sometimes you don't want to do it, but you have to cut it and say, yo, you got to do it on your own. And even with my kids, I have to tell my kids the same thing. You have to find your purpose. You have to find out what drives you, what motivates you, what makes you get up in the morning smiling. And that's the key. If you get up with something, like every day when I was in the NBA, I know everybody said, wait, you making millions of dollars to play a damn sport. You should smile every day. But I love my job. I love my teammates. Like, take for instance, when I was in Phoenix, I didn't wake up with a smile on my face every day. I was making money, but it wasn't a situation that I was happy with. It wasn't fun. You know, people say, and that's one of the things that I try to tell, like, money doesn't bring you happiness. You know, you got to enjoy what you do. You got to enjoy the people in your life and find that driven moment. I know people use the word purpose, but I like to say what drives you, because what drives you to do what you do. And after I retired, it's like, what drives me? I literally took 2 years off trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because a lot of it had to do with the passing of my daughter. It had a lot to do with me getting a divorce. It was a lot of stuff, because people don't understand, when you're in the NBA, you on this road to, you know, to a championship or to the golden path. And once you get off that road, it's different. It's different. Like, for instance, I was with Nike. You can call Nike up, you get click. You know, I ain't LeBron James, I ain't Kobe Bryant, I ain't these guys. So you have to figure it out again. And I meet guys like Wing, and you meet guys like Eric and Mac back there with Shurko, and then these guys kind of uplift you. These guys don't even know. They kind of gave me another purpose in life, is to go out and try to help other people with the platform that I have. And, you know, think about it. My platform is not like a LeBron James platform. My platform is not like a Magic Johnson platform. But my purpose is to try to get to that way and go down a different path and help everybody and do things in a different way. And so for me, it's just a whirlwind of different purposes coming at you. You know, growing up in Alabama, growing up in Houston, you know, you have the hurricanes, you have the tornadoes, and you get to spinning, and you're trying to figure it out, but you have to get your bearings. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, because you want to try to help so many people. You want to try to do many things. You want to try to, since we were on the ocean, you want to try to throw so many lines out to catch that big fish. And that's not who I am, to just throw so many lines out. I try to align myself with the right people and the right purpose, so I can really dedicate myself to that. You know, I have a lot of friends in the NBA, and once they retired, they was like over here, over here, over here, over here, trying to make all these things work. I'm like, why are you doing that? I said, this really doesn't have a direct path to something successful. Yeah. And for me, it's like I've been doing stuff, and, you know, those guys back there with Shurko, when I talked to them, I was like, you should have seen how big my eyes got when it comes to talking about insurance. And that's a whole nother thing. I have to talk to y'all about the NBA and the insurance when you retire. But this was something I said, this could help people in a way that I was affected by, because, quick story, when you retire from the NBA, you don't have insurance anymore. And so you had to get Cobra, which is $15,000 a month. And so due to the fact that we couldn't do that for $15,000 a month, and then Obama came in, I'm talking really fast to get through it. I did it real fast, and then it all came to glue, and then you get, you know, insurance company can help you out. And that's how I became involved with insurance and stuff, and that's how I met Matt and Eric back then. So, and this is like, dude, this is like my purpose now. This is something that, even though it's, you know, I don't really can deep dive into insurance, but I feel like this is the path for me to help people, because I was down that path where it was struggling to find insurance for my daughter with her health issues, because nobody would touch her because she had pre-existing health issues. So it's amazing how you can search and search for years and years, and all of a sudden light bulb goes on, and you're good to go.
Great. So Jason, I know you were looking for some insurance specialists for your practice, so maybe later you guys can talk.
We'll talk afterward. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I finally found something that we have in common, because when I call Nike, I get the same thing.
16 years with Nike, and I get the.
I live right down the street from them,
Well, I didn't
and
have
they don't answer
16
my
years,
call.
but anyway. Wing, why don't you talk about your journey and your path through it?
I'll share a funny story, which is funny, but it's not funny, right? But so exactly what Robert said is true, is the day you walk off the court or the field is the last time you're going to talk to that sponsor. It is what it is, because there's another 100 kids right behind you, right? So 1 year, literally a month after Tim Salmon retired, went in from the field to the broadcasting booth. He calls me one day and says, Wayne, I'm off the program. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What program were you off of? He goes, the Oakley program. Because if you know anything about Oakley, there's a guy named Gary that shows up at spring training, pops up his trunks, and there's thousands of pairs of sunglasses, and everybody gets boxes of it. And you're like a kid in a candy land, right? Nike will come up with cash, and all the player says, thank you, I don't want the $10,000 cash. I'll take a box of sunglasses, which is crazy. But that's how powerful Oakley is in the baseball world and a lot of other sports, right? So he's off the program, so I make a phone call to Oakley because I'm still on the program. And I say, hey, can I get a pair of glasses for Tim? And like, why can't he get his own? He goes, because Gary told him he's off the program. So she goes, no, he's on the program. I go, okay, great. So 6 months go by, we're at the Phoenix Open, and I'm walking with Tim, and 10 feet in front of us is Gary, the baseball guy for Oakley. And I'm like, watch this, Tim. So I walk up to Gary, tap him on the shoulder, and I said, hey, Gary, hey, what's everything good? Oh, yeah, everything's good. He goes, hey, I heard Tim Sam is off the program. And I knew he was. And Gary goes, no, he's on the program. He goes, good, he's with us right here. And the look on Gary's face, right, the eyes bulge, he goes, you mother, whatever, right? He goes, you got me. So we have to walk to the Oakley trailer at the Phoenix Open, get a pair of sunglasses, and Tim said, you realize that these are the last pair of free sunglasses I'm ever going to get. It was about 12 years ago, whatever, right? And we laughed about it ever since, because every time I see Gary around town, he's still the baseball guy for Oakley. He'll tell me, he goes, Wing, don't ever do that to me. Don't embarrass me, basically, right? So it's kind of funny that, and I've seen all kinds of guys that are like, I'm off the program. So I laugh because I go, okay, you guys are crazy. But again, because the agent doesn't take a part of your sunglasses. When you get cash, well, there's taxes, there's all these other things. So all the players will rather take the swag than the cash, which I think is hilarious, right? But they could buy all the sunglasses in the world they could with the money, but they don't. Right. So for me, like talking about all these, the purposes, hey, if I can come into any situation and make it better, right? And I didn't realize that when I was a kid, I always said, I have this, Chinese name, Wing. So all my brothers have Brazilian names or American names because I grew up in Brazil. And the whole thing was like, Wing, why don't you change your name to something more American or Brazilian? Because I don't know, it just kind of stuck. Fast forward, right? I joke about being everybody's wingman, right? So I come into any situation, I goes, hey, this thing sucks, so how can I make it better, right? And it turns out it's a pretty good place to be because, again, you can help charities, you can help friends just do better in business, but more important, you get to meet some really cool people, right? Because it's not about you, it's about the team, it's about everybody around you and rising with everybody.
Great, thanks, Wing. And you can see Wing has this great balance between ROI and fun, right? It's a very unique combination of how do I do good, but really still keeping an eye on the bottom line. And I think that's a great combination of things. Jason, I think your firm does the same thing in terms of how do you make this a good business decision? How is doing good also a good business decision?
So part of it is satisfaction from work, right? Some of it is just, you can clock in and clock out in a lot of different roles in not just this industry, but in this economy. But finding something that rings at a deeper level with your own values, that it's not direct compensation. Maybe that's the swag of being an advisor, right? We get the good stuff for free, but tying that in, and then I think part of it too is in our role as advisors, much like you described the abrupt end at the career as an NBA player, that sense of what am I doing next? that's a real common experience for everyone who's spent a career doing anything. Maybe not quite as dramatically and not at the age it happened to you, but
38.
yeah, no, mostly not 38, 68 maybe, 58 maybe. But that's a common experience, that sense of kind of a little bit adrift. And so honestly, some of it has been being there alongside clients as they make that transition from a very fulfilling role professionally to what am I doing now that I've sold the company, that, whatever the succession plan has been, being alongside in that journey to be a coach and a guide and an encourager. There's a lot of indirect purpose that you experience yourself. So some of it's part of the role, and I think a lot of the advisors here would probably agree that that's one of the satisfying aspects of the work that we get to do along the way.
Great. So pretend I'm just a guy, and actually I am just a guy because my picture isn't even up on the screen. So just pretend I'm just some random guy.
We could probably AI generate something real quick.
We probably could do something quick.
Ask chat.
And so I'm some random guy. Give me some advice on how to live a life of purpose, and how do you build that all together? So Wing, you're nodding. I'm going to go to you first.
Well, assuming that we're not 6'8", we got to figure something else out, right? So I think it's find the space that you like to be in. For instance, like environmental, kids, whatever it is that kind of tickles your fancy, or because you have friends or relatives that are, have a kid in need or whatever that is, right? So when we started, it was literally, I think it was Paul Matenko, who was one of the founders of BJ's Pizza. His oldest daughter, has CF, and he came to me and goes, "Hey, can you help me out?" And I'm like, "Well, you're a restaurant guy. What do you need me for, right? You already got the F&B part." He goes, "Well, but, I can't do everything. So can you come to the walk, the golf?" And so we did, right? So over the years, we just found the purpose, because I like to be able to see his daughter now, who's, I think, 37. At the time when she was 2 years old, I'm like, she's not going to live past 10,
right?
Not get past 20, past 30. Right. Now she's 37. We're like, hopefully she'll get to her 40s, right? So it's watching that, 35 years, like, wow. I'm like, in one hand, I'm glad I've been part of that journey. So through it, and again, that's just one example, because I got cancer kids. I got so many friends that have something. So I knock on wood that nobody in my family had anything. Yeah. But I'm like, so if we're in a position to help, right? So that's what I think, because when people see you, like, it's not just a company putting their logo, putting their money into something just because, right? We're there to actually make an impact and make somebody's life better. And when we make one person's life better, pretty much everybody that's in that bucket benefits from it. So whatever that means, right? So that's why for us, it's always been hard to say no. We always say, well, we'll say yes or maybe, and then we'll go figure out how to make this thing work. And trust me, a lot of times the ROI is not there. I mean, you can't justify spending X of money, time, resources to do anything, but you got to have a little bit of faith, right? And when you have a little bit of faith, the ROI ends up being 3 to 4 to 10 times more than you ever expected. Yeah. So again, not 100% of it works out, but 90% of it, it's like, okay, we were able to make an impact.
Great. Jason, give me some advice.
Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you experience. So just start. Just connect with, tune your radar, connect with people, respond to the needs in your community. I gave the example earlier. It was easy to support the community in Maui because it connected to memories I have, experiences I've had with my family, so it was an experience. My wife redirected her career in response to something we experienced as a family, and it's been extremely enriching and purposeful for her in a way that it changed her whole career trajectory, again, because she was tuned into an experience. So I think, honestly, it's just get out, connect, and be open to the experience, and the purpose will show itself.
Great. Robert, how about you? Any advice for me?
I think, for me, from my experiences, we all been in the car by ourselves. And I think when you turn the music off and you just drive, and all of a sudden you get that smile. It's something that's inside of you that gives you a smile. I think that's your purpose, because we have a lot of things going on in our world, but when you have that one little thing that can just make you smile, and I'm not talking about like your kids or your girlfriend, your wife, your boyfriend, that one little joy that's all of a sudden you sit there and it just makes you feel so good, I think that's what you should go for. Because I know I've sat around and I had a lot of things like, okay, what puts that smile on my face that someone will look at you like, what the hell are you smiling at? And you can't really explain it to them. It's this little niche that I found that gives me a purpose and a joy and makes me want to go out and tackle that. And for me, I think you need to listen to your inner self, because your inner self always tells you what to do. Let me just say this. If I've listened to my inner self 3 times, I wouldn't be sitting here, because I'll be so rich that I wouldn't have time for you guys. But you have to listen to your inner self, because your inner child or your inner being or your inner angel, whoever it may be, is going to tell you what to do.
That's great. And I think that's one of the things that the purpose of this session was to get you all to think and start being inspired to find your own purposes and your own ways that you can give back more than just what you're doing today, and how you can connect that to your purpose. All right, so let's do some commercials here. Wing has got a great charity called California Love Drops. We want to hear some more about that, and then I want to give Robert and Jason a chance to talk about their favorite causes. But Wing, why don't you kick us off with California Love Drops?
Well, what started out as basically I call survival mode. If anybody, I don't know how good or bad your businesses went from Wednesday to Friday when the pandemic hit in California, right? So Wednesday, when they announced all non-essential businesses to, cease operations, by Friday, we lost 85% of our business. So the typical store that had about 12 employees on a shift was down to 3, a cashier, a server, and a cook. It was like a ghost town. So we basically say, hey, let's furlough everybody, send everybody home with toilet paper, oranges, rice, beans, anything that we had. And we still had food that was going to expire because it was going to perish because it was already prepped for the weekend. So I said, you know what, let's do something with it, because otherwise we're going to throw it away. So I went out to 4 local hospitals in Long Beach and delivered to Long Beach Memorial, Long Beach Presbyterian, whatever. And, my brother goes, hey, that's very noble of you to go out there and repurpose what we're going to throw away anyway, but you got to stop. And I'm like, what do you mean stop? I got all these other hospitals calling me for the same thing, to deliver meals to them. He says, have you not noticed that we're down 85%? You can't afford to go buy stuff and give it away. And I'm like, oh, you're right. We're not like we were before the pandemic, right? So one of the things that I did is I called all my friends and said, hey, what are you doing with the earmark money you have set aside for charities, knowing that everything got canceled? And this says nothing. Goes, well, can I get $100? Can I get $200? And they're like, yeah, sure, because it's sitting there ready for charity money anyway. So when everybody was sitting at home, I went out, gathered a bunch of my friends, said, let's do this together, right? And this is the teamwork. So I got my buddies from Yogurtland, Monster Energy Drink, Cliff Bar, Hint Water, and I said, let's go out and start doing it. Well, the moment that turned was when KLOS called me. He goes, hey, are you guys crazy? What are you doing? He goes, I'm going now. He goes, can we help you? And I said, well, how are you going to help us? He goes, we have this platform called the radio. Why don't we create a GoFundMe page for you guys? And I'm like, we don't have any money to do that. He goes, we're going to do it. So KLOS, morning show, Heidi and Frank, they said, we're going to become your partners. But it can't be Wahoo's. We got to call it something else. And he goes, call it whatever you want. So it says, what about the California Love Drop? And I'm like, why is that? He goes, because we're out spreading the love. I'm like, sounds great. So through the media partnership and all of us, we started going out. Literally in about a month, we'll be coming close to our 500th delivery that we've done to every hospital, police, fire, school, and all the different charities out there. So the biggest thing is it allowed me to save 5 additional stores from going under. We lost pretty much all of our LA locations and a few around the country, Philadelphia and a few other ones. And now it's to a point where instead of just going out to the hospitals because they don't really need our help, we go out to other nonprofits. So next week, we got a huge, fishing tournament with the veterans. A month later, we'll be down to the Camp Pendleton. So that's what we do now. We take the funds and go out. And what started out as just trying to survive, one of the things that we can't get out of right now is the new normal, I think, across the United States is maybe 3 days a week. Well, 3 out of 5 is 40% down in business. So our lunch trade is pretty much still anywhere between 20 to 40% down. It is what it is. So I don't know if people are ever going to get back to 4, maybe 5 days a week. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And this is kind of like where Robert and I were talking about, because Robert said, hey, there's these guys back here that said they have a new platform. For the first time, instead of just being sales driven, I said, well, let's look at cost. So this is where the new platform is. So now they're looking at, hey, if we can save you 10 to 20% on your health insurance, this is one of the ways we're going to get back to normal. So the guys from Sherco have been helping out. They were there at the beginning with their other company, UHSM, and then all of a sudden it was, wow, there's this platform. So that's what we're doing now.
Great. Jason, anything you want to plug?
Sure, happy to. Well, I've alluded to it a couple times here already this morning, but several years ago, our family experienced a loss. My nephew died unexpectedly. He was very young. He was 13 months old. And my brother and his wife, after kind of getting through the initial shock in their grief, started an organization first to help other families that experience that type of loss. In addition to just a direct financial help, they were supported by a network of family that not everyone has. They wanted to create a space where that could be an impact that they were able to pass on. After that, they started a second piece to it called Give Grief a Voice, where they will commission a writer to interview a family who's experienced a similar loss. That narrative is given to an artist who's commissioned to create a painting for that family as an expression and a way to kind of help that family through that grief experience. They've been brought out to Iowa, down here to LA. They do this up in Portland. And in fact, in a couple weeks, we have the reveal party where the families come in to see the piece that was created for them. This has pulled our whole family in very positive ways. This is why my wife now is focused on becoming a painter and an artist. Just got into her first show, which is very exciting for us. But just as an example of a organization that's impacted our family and has given us a platform to help others who are navigating a loss like ours. So Buzzy's Bees is the primary organization, and Give Grief a Voice. Great. I'll do a twofer. Both are great.
Robert, anything you want to talk about?
Well, for me is when my daughter was born, her syndrome was so rare it didn't even have a name. It didn't get a name until she was like 11. It was called 1P36 deletion syndrome. So my ex-wife, she wrote a book called A Glamorous Sacrifice. And with her writing this book, it tells the story how everybody think, oh, you got money now, everything is perfect. But you have to sacrifice so many things. And so out of that, we developed the Ashton Horry Foundation. And we're kind of different because there's really no cure for the syndrome. So what we do is we go to the hospitals where families are and pick you. And I don't know, and I hope none of y'all ever had experienced this, but there are families that sit and pick you, don't know what the deal is going on with their child. They spend the night there, and they have, well, I'm only speaking from Texas Children's Hospital, which is, I think, is one of the best hospitals out there. They have these rooms called the Ronald McDonald rooms. And those rooms, you can actually sleep in the bed. And they used to offer it to us all the time because of who I was, and I wouldn't do it because I didn't think that was fair. And so what my wife and I would do is we teamed up with some people. I'm really good with the Pappas family. I don't know if y'all know Greg Pappas, Papados and all that kind of stuff. So I teamed up with him. I teamed up with some other restaurants. I teamed up with the guy who owns Chi. And what we did was we started using the foundation, the money, to take those families' food and then leave little packages of I call it a little care package. It got like soap. It got like shampoo because all of us, we've all stayed in the Holiday Inn. They ain't the best soaps, and that's what these run. And you want the people, I know it's just a little love to make you feel good in a bad time. And so that's what we would do and provide meals for them because you don't want to go walk down to the commissary and, get that food, and you want something different. You don't want that, and that's what we try to do. We just try to bring a little joy during a bad time because I know, you think about this, people didn't even notice back in 1994, I'm at the Houston Rockets. I would be out here getting my butt kicked by the New York Knicks, leave the summit, and drive straight to the hospital and sleep in a bed, like a little chair like this. And people are like, why are you here? I said, my daughter is here. I need to be here for her. And then I look at these other families, and you got to know every family in there because we all were in there 24/7, knowing that there's nothing we can do but sit there and when something goes wrong or goes right to be there for our daughter or our son. And for me, I saw how people were like, this is the funny part. You can see people start doing that. I'm like, damn, I got to go get a shower or something. And then I went across to the hotel and I went to them. I said, hey, can y'all please give some of these people a discount? You tell me what I can do. And luckily, the manager said, if you give me tickets to the Knicks finals, I'll do whatever you want. And I would go around and give these people like his business card, and they would get like a 50% discount on the room. And it was just things like that you use your platform for. And back to what I was saying, it was just my wife's book, The Glamorous Sacrifice. It goes to the Ashland Horry Foundation. And what we do is we try to go to pick you. We try to give them hot meals outside the meals they have to pay for. Because I don't know if y'all ever go to a hospital or go to an ICU. Parking is expensive. Eating downstairs is expensive. And no chairs are uncomfortable. So we just try to do something to give you a little comfort in a bad time.
Thanks for sharing all of that. My children would kill me if I didn't at least ask you one NBA question. So sorry for varying from the agenda.
It's all
I know
good.
you told me I shouldn't be too hopeful about my Minnesota Timberwolves this coming season.
No,
but,
you shouldn't.
But
Do you have any insight on what Mr. Lillard will be doing? As a Portland native, I'd love to know.
If you listen to 2K already got him in Miami, but now I don't know.
So what's your prediction for the upcoming NBA season? What are going to be the big stories?
It's so weird because people always ask your prediction. You cannot really give a prediction anymore because guys be dropping like flies now. They always getting hurt. And you think about it, when Giannis got hurt for Milwaukee, that changed the whole direction of the East, And for me, if you just look at what's on paper and look around the league, I think Denver is still going to be the team to beat. Yep. Because if you watch them play, they play like a team. They just don't shoot threes. They rebound. They offensive rebound, which a lot of teams don't do anymore. And they move and they cut. And Jokic is a facilitator. Murray's a facilitator. And that's what you got to have, just like any team. You got to have people that makes each other better. Not just one person, but everybody. I think for them, they're the one team that does that. And then if Milwaukee can be healthy, I think Giannis is the hardest playing player in basketball. And he's the only player that I know right now can, outside of maybe AD when he's healthy, they make a big impact on both ends of the floor, offense and defense. So I still like Milwaukee. Everybody's still high on that team in green, but I just don't think they're big enough. But I just think Milwaukee, if they can stay healthy, is probably the team out of the East.
All right, great. Thanks. I think we have a little time for questions. If there are any questions from the audience, we can entertain that. I don't see a lot of hands. Oh, way in the back there.
Big shot, Bob. All the shots you made, is there one that stands out above all for you?
So the question to repeat it for the recording was, what's the biggest big shot you've hit?
I think for me, the shot, growing up, I was a huge Laker fan. And for me to be able to do that and hit a shot against Sacramento in the playoffs at a crucial time is going to be the biggest shot for me. I know people from Texas remember for what I did in Houston and what I did in San Antonio. But
all about it.
Yeah,
yep.
but on a personal note, I just think growing up a Magic Johnson fan, wanting to play for the Lakers, it was just huge to hit that shot. And on the ego side of it, it's nothing like hearing 20,000 fans chant your name. It was the best.
Yeah. So while you were talking, I had this really scary thought of you catching passes from Jokovic and how many threes you would have made. And if he would have been you played with good players, but if he was throwing you the ball, you'd have made a lot of three-pointers. So if there's any other questions, I think we'll wrap up for today. Please stop.
He might want to ask me a question, but I don't think he really wants to.
Yeah, he's got the Suns hat there. So anyway, thank you all for coming. We are at booth 404 if you want to come by and learn some more. I think Wing will be around a little bit. I think Robert has to run, but the rest of us will be there. We are also, for every business card or email address that we collect, are going to be making a $50 donation to California Love Drop to support Wing and his charity. So if you want to find a way to help out that California Love Drop charity, that's a great way to do it. Stop by our booth, give us a business card or email. So with that, I think we've got 5 seconds left on the clock. I think it's time to hit a shot.
Thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you, everybody.